With plenty of brutal action, lots of deep characterization and plenty of drama throughout, The Last of Us is a solid adaptation. If you finish watching this one and are looking for alternate picks, we've combed through the archives and saved you the hassle with our top 10 picks that aren't spin-offs or set in the same universe. As always, let us know your favourites in the comments and which of these you've watched. So without further ado, let's start the countdown. Back in its heyday, The Walking Dead was one of the biggest shows on network TV. Adapted from the comic book sporting the same name, Walking Dead was brutal, action-packed and full of drama. The later seasons did slip in quality, but despite that, its cultural impact is undeniable. Zombies aren't the only threat to the protagonists of this show, as their chances of finding a safe haven is constantly made difficult because of their fellow humans. Part human drama, part post-apocalyptic romp, The Walking Dead is a must-watch if you haven't seen it already. Black Summer is an interesting take on the downfall of humanity, sticking much closer to the days following the infection rather than cutting forward to a bleak post-apocalyptic wasteland straight away. Despite some rather strange stylistic choices and questionable character logic at times, Black Summer maintains a consistent danger throughout, and its large ensemble of characters are constantly thwarted by intelligent, fast zombies. There's an extremely tense atmosphere gripping most of the two seasons, and while many people remain torn over this one, we were absolutely fans of this. To the Lake feels like a mashup between the latter half of 28 Days Later and the entirety of Walking Dead Season 1. The human drama is tense, the characters nicely develop, and the dystopian world is bleak and unforgiving. At the heart of this, a terrible plague strikes and a group decides to risk their lives to escape. Specifically, they intend to reach a lake that may be their last refuge for salvation. However, humanity struggles to survive as the end of civilization looms heavy. This plays out much closer to a character-driven commentary about the selfishness and paranoia hidden away in all of us, but it is 100% one of Netflix's bigger underrated gems. If thematic depth is your jam, The Leftovers is definitely worth checking out. Running for 3 seasons, the story picks up just after a global event called the Sudden Departure. This inexplicable event sees the disappearance of 140 million people, or 2% of the world's population to be precise. Following that, mainstream religions decline, which paves way for a number of cults to emerge. The most notable among them is the Guilty Remnant. The story picks up from here, and we're not going to spoil much more here, but it only grows more intriguing and interesting over time. The Leftovers is an absolute must-watch. When it comes to underrated sci-fi series, 12 Monkeys must be near the top of the list. This incredibly thrilling show completely surpasses its big screen brother to produce something really special and criminally overlooked. The story is relatively unchanged from the film sporting the same name. In the future, a virus has absolutely ravaged humanity, and a lone time traveller jumps back to stop a plague from wiping out Earth. While it sounds simple in theory, 12 Monkeys quickly adds layers of depth to rival that seen in complicated time travel series like Dark. After an enjoyable and relatively predictable first season, 12 Monkeys changes the game by introducing a shadowy group called the Army of the 12 Monkeys. They too seem desperate to change the past, but to what end? Trust us when we say this one is absolutely worth your time. Beautifully presented and with great characterization, zombie action thriller Kingdom is quite the thrill ride. Split across several seasons, Kingdom effortlessly blends political drama with a thrilling action plot. The story begins slowly, using its first episode to show off the gorgeous setting of Hanyang in South Korea as we travel back through time to the Joseon period. Crown King Lee Chang is our protagonist, and while he begins engaging in a bitter feud with the Queen, physician Seo Bi in Ji Yo Hyun makes a horrifying discovery. With Lee Chang by his side, the pair realise the dead are coming back to life and mercilessly hunting the living. With no guns or modern weaponry, much of the tension comes from seeing these men and women make do with the scarce resources around them. It's one of the few shows that balances action with tension perfectly and should absolutely be on your watch list. Day 5 is another intriguing post-apocalyptic romp, one that adds a unique spin to the usual pandemic formula. The attention here turns to an unexplainable epidemic, which sweeps across the globe and affects every human being. Quite simply, whenever someone falls asleep, they die. As people frantically search for answers, the show focuses on a junkie called Jake, who, joined by a small band of survivors, works to try and find a cure before it's too late. Although there are some loose ends and the show starts a little slowly, if you can look past that, there's certainly lots to like with this one. Adapted from the popular graphic novels back in 2009, Sweet Tooth takes place sometime in the near future. A viral outbreak has decimated the world. Dubbed the H5G9 strain, what begins with a simple cough soon mutates into something much worse. This is known colloquially as the Great Crumble. Hiding out at Yellowstone National Park with his pupper, Gus finds himself growing up and learning how to survive. However, he soon becomes curious about the outside world and decides to venture off to find his mum, Birdie. Along the way, he's joined by a bruiser called Tommy Jepp, and the two form an unlikely bond that ultimately serves as the glue that ties everything together. The show has now concluded with a final season that wraps everything up, so there's no danger of a cliffhanger ending here. Stephen King's epic novel remains one of his best pieces of work. A sprawling, post-apocalyptic romp that surpasses the brilliance of it. The story revolves around a deadly plague outbreak that kills most of the world's population. For those left over, they're split into two distinct groups. One that's led by the maniacal, malevolent being known as Randall, and the other's guided by a wise elder called Mother Teresa. This essentially sets up a massive war to rage between the two sides. This 1994 miniseries still holds up to this day, and is miles better than a pale imitation of a remake released in 2020. This one's another must-watch, folks. Happiness is a brilliantly written hidden gem from Korea. Our story takes place post-COVID. Korea and the rest of the world are just starting to get back on their feet. When experimental vaccine pills called Next drip feed onto the market, it's soon revealed that these are the catalyst for another outbreak, one far deadlier than expected. With an unquenchable thirst for water and a madness that descends over the infected, the virus spreads courtesy of bites and scratches, as well as taking the pills. What's particularly interesting here though is the development for all the supporting characters. While Saebom and Yi Hyung have their own angle, intent on finding a vaccine with the help of government official Taesok, the real meat of the story lies in the reaction from the different owners and renters inhabiting this block. Happiness is an absolute must-watch and one of the hidden gems from 2021. So there we have it, our 10 TV show alternatives to watch when you finished with The Last of Us on Max. So what did you think of our picks? Do you agree? Are there any notable omissions? Or do you think we're way off the mark? Either way, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.